everybody, welcome back to ADHD Power Tools. It's been over a year, Brooke and I have been working together making these amazing episodes called ADHD Power Tools. And right now we want to show you, we finally made some merch. ADHD
So
Power Tools, official merch right here, and we're wearing them today. But anyways, I want to, let's switch gears, hop back to ADHD Power Tools. I want to ask you, Brooke, today's episode, I want to ask you, can you talk to us today about ADHD and self-diagnosing?
Yeah, social media like TikTok, Instagram has been huge since the pandemic. It exploded. People have more time to look at that. They want a sense of community. They want a sense of social connection. So they've been using Instagram and other forms of social media platforms. So this has created awareness of ADHD, which is wonderful. And it's helped to destigmatize ADHD. But the ADHD channel on TikTok has more than 25 billion views.
Mm-hmm.
Can you even imagine that?
That's
And
ridiculous.
then it's active in 150 countries on
Mhm.
top of that. So it's nice because it destigmatizes mental disorders. It helps bring awareness to ADHD and gives people community strategies, tools and tips for their ADHD. But at the same time, we have to be careful about who we get the information from. There's a lot of people, and I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback from this on this video, but there's a lot of people out there that copy other people's information on social media platforms. And that information that was copied from other social media platforms might not be a reliable source. So we have to make sure that what we're looking at is qualified and reliable information and sources. So the danger is that a lot of new people are getting a lot of followers. They're looked at and admired by their followers. And if the information isn't 100% accurate, that wrong information is now going out to other people. On top of that, coexisting conditions like anxiety, depression, OCD, that also might trickle in because it's coexisting with ADHD very often. So if someone has those conditions or symptoms, they might think that they have ADHD because on top of it being coexisting, ADHD has some overlapping symptoms as anxiety, depression, and OCD. Mm-hmm. So if you're not careful, you might self-diagnose yourself and think that this is you. Kind of like if you go onto WebMD because your toe hurts, and then all of a sudden, you have a million things that come up that might be the issue. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that if you are going to get a diagnosis, that it's from someone like a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a social worker. There are tests, informal tests out there that you can take. And there's a lot of validation for people in the diagnosis. But again, just make sure that it's a reliable source. So some reliable sources also to get information on it would be like CHAD, experts such as Dr. Daniel Amen, Dr. Hallowell, Dr. Barclay, Dr. Thomas Brown, the American Psychiatric Association. Mm-hmm. So just think about where you're getting your information.
100%. I agree with you. There's a major difference between social media content creators and the actual experts. And you need to understand the difference, understand what's accurate, what's factual. When I think of TikTok, Instagram, all these social media platforms, TikTok started with 15-second videos. That's the maximum it can go. Then it went up to 30 seconds. And now the new maximum is 3 minutes. So these new updates, it kept going up. But the most popular videos are always the shorter ones. And these shorter videos, I think that the reason they're most popular is because they require the least amount of attention. And they also provide these little dopamine bursts for each video. And it's like you're on to the next one and next one and next one. And it gets really addicting, hours pass. And, especially with us, with, the ADHD brain, at least for me, you kind of get addicted to this stuff. You sit there forever, the attention and dopamine. So
Absolutely.
kind of satisfies what you're looking for. And that goes with Instagram. They're doing that now. Twitter, YouTube, they're all incorporating this new short video form type of algorithm. Now, I think, with this new style of posting social media and information on social media, um, there's a flood of creativity and a flood of information that comes with it. And some of the information is great. Creativity is awesome. I can't deny it. Dr. Hallowell, like you bring up earlier, he's an ADHD, he's a ADHD psychiatrist, he's well known, and he says it like this. He says TikTok is a lot of very entertaining, imaginative, and creative content. It is like an ADHD field that is very fertile. And you got to remember that you gotta always run it back to there's misinformation online, especially when we talk about self-diagnosing. And what I recommend when it comes to this stuff is figuring out who the experts are. Some of the recommendations are Dr. Hallowell and the other doctors that you bring up, and some other great advocates are like Danny Donovan. I've been following her on Twitter, TikTok. These are some great people who are in the field, understand and give, I think, in my opinion, very accurate and great mental health and ADHD information. I think getting a diagnosis is so important too, Brooke. Not knowing is so much more worse than knowing. Knowing,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And with that point, it is so important to get the diagnosis because there's so much validation, there's explanation. It's not an excuse, but then from there, there's treatments that can take place, like
Mhm,
medication, behavioral. But also, I want to talk about the flip side of the attachment of self-diagnosis.
mhm,
I have a lot of, since my following on Coaching with Brooke Instagram increased, I have a lot of followers who have said to me, I really hope I'm going for my appointment with a psychiatrist or psychologist. And I really hope that I have ADHD because I've been attaching my symptoms to ADHD from what I've been seeing on the internet.
mhm,
And if I don't have an explanation anymore. So
mhm.
that's a little scary too. You think, okay, this is going to be the end all be all, but it's often there's so much more than just the diagnosis. Yes, it's the first step,
Yes.
but it's sad when people think they have it and they can relate, and
Mhm.
then their walls break down when they find out they don't have it.
Yes.
So
I
there's a little
think
bit of that too.
100%. I think even in that case, I think it's still good to know that you don't have it versus not knowing in general. Just thinking, self-diagnosing. Understanding how your brain works in a day will help you figure out where you can go for tools, where you can go for information, what community you can go for. Speaking of, different sources, I want to ask you, Brooke, what are some sources that you think are best to get factual and accurate information about ADHD on the internet?
Yeah, the same ones as mentioned before. So CHAD, ADA.org, American Psychiatric Association, because it has the official DSM diagnosis. And then, of course, going to a specialized doctor, like a psychologist, psychiatrist, social worker, someone who can actually diagnose you.
100%. Yep. I also like Attitude Magazine. I want to add that in. That
Love Attitude.
I get some of my good tools from there. So yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
Attitude Magazine has amazing specialists who write for their magazine. So lots of doctors, coaches, therapists, um, advocates. So they vet their information.
Coaches like yourself, Brooke.
Been on there a couple times.
There you go.